My name's Martin, and today's Bible reading comes from selected verses in the Old Testament book of Proverbs. Chapter 13, verse 20. Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. Chapter 18, verse 24. One who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. Chapter 19, verses 4 to 7. Wealth attracts many friends, but even the closest friend of the poor person deserts them. A false witness will not go unpunished, and whoever pours out lies will not go free. Many curry favour with a ruler, and everyone is the friend of one who gives gifts. The poor are shunned by all their relatives. How much more do their friends avoid them? Though the poor pursue them with pleading, they are nowhere to be found. Chapter 27, verses 5 to 10. Better is open rebuke than hidden love. Wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. One who is full loathes honey from the comb, but to the hungry, even what is bitter tastes sweet. Like a bird that flees its nest is anyone who flees from home. Perfume and incense bring joy to the heart, and the pleasantness of a friend springs from their heartfelt advice. Do not forsake your friend or a friend of your family, and do not go to your relation's house when disaster strikes you. Better a neighbour nearby than a relative far away. And finally, chapter 27, verse 17. As iron sharpens iron, so one person also sharpens another. Hear the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
It's been a hard week in Melbourne. The pandemic has placed incredible pressure on us all for 18 months now. But on top of what we're really experiencing, there's also the media, which I'll talk more about next week, the strong opinions, the case numbers, and the anxiety on top of what we're having in our day-to-day lives. So now more than ever, we need to cultivate good habits. Habits like prayer or reflection on scripture. Habits that actually help us and encourage us in this time and help us be sensitive and caring to those around us. Yet ironically, lockdown's probably the hardest time to start these habits. So if you're even just trying to pray in this season, consider that a win. I've been encouraged by your feedback, encouraged to hear of those who have started to read the Bible during this time. Well done. Last week's habit was about eating meals with others. Well, that's pretty hard in lockdown, especially if you live alone. Well done to those who have gone that extra mile, organising meals over Zoom with others, or even being generous by giving Uber Eats to someone to show hospitality and God's grace through food. But we're now up to, or about halfway through this series. And the aim of each episode or sermon in this series is to do a couple of things. It's to give you something useful and practical for your life right now. But we also want to explain the principles behind these habits so that you can make the habit fit into who you are and how your life goes. And we also want to show how these habits are distinctly Christian, the biblical basis behind each of these habits. There is a biblical way, for example, of showing hospitality. It's different to just having food with people. There's a biblical way of practicing silence, a biblical meditation, for example. So we've already looked at 4 daily habits in this series. And those 4 habits, remember, are prayer, daily reading of the Bible, silence and presence, and then last week, meals or eating with others. And today we begin the first of our 4 weekly habits, beginning with this habit of conversation with a friend or with friends. So the practical habit that comes out of today might include organising or practicing a rhythm of about an hour of conversation with a friend or friends. And I'll get back to that practical habit a little bit later in this talk. But I want to spend most of my time talking about what is friendship exactly. Because friendship, having that real friend who cares for you, is especially important in this time of lockdown. So what is friendship exactly? Well, today's verses from Proverbs speak of two different types of friends. The true friend of the wise and the superficial friend of the foolish. Proverbs is a wisdom book. It's teaching you how to navigate life's journey wisely, and it recognizes that wise living is not something that can be achieved alone. You need good friends to help you navigate the path of life. And so there's this contrast between good friends and bad friends. Friends of the wise, friends of the foolish, even in these verses we look at today. You can see this in our first verse, Proverbs 13, verse 20. It says, "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm." Proverbs is saying that we should be discerning in our friendships. You want good and wise friends, not mere acquaintances who will disappear or even cause you harm in the long run. Or chapter 18, verse 24. One who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. That word or phrase, unreliable friends, the translation that's given those two words, that Hebrew word could easily be translated acquaintances or companions. That's sort of the idea behind it. It's different to the second word used for friend in this sentence, which is related to the Hebrew word for love. It's talking about a loyal, devoted, committed friend. Hence that line, a friend who sticks closer than a brother. And chapter 19 brings out the same idea as well. 19:4, wealth attracts many friends, but even the closest friend of the poor deserts them. So there are superficial friends who come and go, acquaintances, companions who will come to you if you're wealthy. They'll seek their own advantage through friendship, worldly gain. But when things get hard, those type of friends will disappear. It's also helpful to define not just good friends and bad friends, but also to talk about what friendship is not. Friendship is not, as I've sort of implied, it's not mere companionship. It's not merely going to the movies so you're not alone, or playing golf with someone, or sharing in business together. Having acquaintances is not bad, of course. That can be a good thing. You might call them your friends, but we're talking about a different level or depth of friendship in this habit and talk today. And it's also worth noting that friendship is not romance. A Christian author of the 20th century, C.S. Lewis, points out that lovers are often seen face to face, looking into each other's eyes, absorbed in each other. Lovers are jealous of one another. They want exclusivity in their relationship. But friendship's different. It's not jealous. There's room for others to come alongside. They share a common vision. They walk side by side or shoulder to shoulder. And so it's heartbreaking those times where one person wants exclusive love in the relationship, romance, while the other simply wants friendship. It doesn't work out. Yet I should also highlight that the best romance, of course, is built on the foundation of friendship, but they're not the same. So now that we've considered what friendship is not, let's highlight what friendship or deep friendship really is. It's like saying, "What? You too? I thought I was the only one," as people are joined together over time, sharing the same vision, traveling the same road with shared goals in life. C.S. Lewis, again, he writes that the ancients, to them, friendship seemed the happiest and most fully human of all loves, the crown of life and the school of virtue. Yet the modern world, by contrast, ignores it. And that's, I think, a bit of a sad reality most of us, to some degree, have perhaps experienced. I don't want to generalize at all, but I think for a long time now, men have often been known for having few real friends. If you Google friendship, especially Google images, nearly all the pictures that come up are of women. Some will even say that a man needs a wife more than he needs a real friend, which reinforces this neglect of deep friendship. Steve Biddulph, Australian author of books like Manhood and Raising Boys, he writes that most men don't have a life. What we call our life is mostly just a big act, a mask that we clamp onto our faces each morning and don't take off until we fall asleep at night. Yet it wasn't always like this. Throughout history, men have needed to act tough at times, but they could also drop the act so as to love, laugh and be close, feel grief and build friendship. So friendship is the key, according to this men's expert. Real friendship, I want to suggest, equals real or leads to real manhood. Yet I'm also aware there are many women who don't have deep friendships. They might be strong people, have lots of gifts, but few deep friendships. So this is a trouble we all face in different ways and perhaps at different seasons in life as well. And yet I want to suggest real friendship, cultivating real friendship leads to real personhood and health as a person. Now, of course, in lockdown experiences like we're in now, technology can be very helpful for cultivating good friendship. But I think the reality is, for most of us, technology often is unhelpful in some degree as well for friendship. I have hundreds of Facebook friends. I haven't done a count lately, but next time I'm on, I might check what my number's up to. I don't have very many deep friendships. Often we can be using technology to maintain contact with people in a fairly superficial way, email, messages, and so forth, but not being vulnerable and real with people. That comes through that deep conversation and sharing together. Of course, the sad thing is when we're looking for relationship and depth and intimacy, we might go to somewhere like Facebook and it gives us kind of that little sugar hit, but then leaves us feeling even more empty than before because it's not addressing that deeper need that we have as people. So we need at some point to start a friendship. And then once it starts to become a real friendship where we're sharing our vulnerabilities and our needs, being honest and open with each other, we also need to be intentional about maintaining that friendship. And Proverbs 27 is helpful. Verse 10 says, "Do not forsake your friend or a friend of your family." Don't just let those really significant friendships fall away. Don't assume they'll last forever. We need to be intentional. Now, of course, you can't maintain all your friendships. We have different seasons through life. But we do need to cultivate good habits in this, and that's what today is all about. Justin Ali defines friendship as vulnerable conversation over time. Vulnerable conversation over time. You can't create a friendship just in one conversation normally. And we need more than shared activities. We need to share our hopes and our dreams, our struggles, to admit our needs and secrets. Friends are those people where you can admit your problems and you know they will support you. It's where you open yourself up and you discover, oh, I'm not the only one, as you support each other and are real with each other. It also means that actually, as you help each other navigate the path of life wisely, there can be even correction and rebuke and guidance because of the strength of love and relationship in that friendship. Proverbs 27 verse 5 says, better is open rebuke, i.e. from a friend, than hidden love. Verse 6, wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. A mere acquaintance, or even someone who's got a crush on someone, might be wanting to flatter them, but a friend will tell the truth because of the depth of relationship that exists. Even if it's hard to talk about, it's best hearing those words because you know who it's coming from. True friendship can be risky, even especially at the start, of course. But friendship is redemptive. It helps us travel the road of life wisely. Friendship embodies the gospel. A true friend knows our weaknesses and our problems, but still loves us anyway, accepts us. They stick around through thick and through thin, despite all our flaws and burdens. It supports us on that path of life as we struggle alongside each other. Now, in my role as working for the Anglican Church, I have many colleagues in Melbourne and people I meet. I go to a deanery meeting, which, to be honest, a lot of the time is a bit of a waste of my time, it feels like. But there are those few people, those others, who are my true friends. And when I meet with them, there's safety. There is something real and secure and wonderful about it. They're the people I can share those things with that I don't share with anyone else. Those few colleagues who are my true friends are the ones I pray for, who pray for me, who when we meet together, we generally pray for each other in supporting each other in our friendship. That's why the church should be the household of friendship. Not worldly love, not superficial love, but a place where we allow the light of Christ to uncover the darkness of our sin and shame and forgive each other and accept each other just as Christ accepts us in trusting, loving relationship. It's about being real with each other. So the church is to embody safety, real friendship, embodying the gospel, and putting this on display to the world. If you lack a friend, perhaps the church is a great place to start. Of thinking this week, who might you call or make contact with to be more intentional with in cultivating real friendship? If you don't have many good friends, perhaps you need to be quite specific about it, of saying, well, let's call each other at a particular time of the week and do it over a period of a few months or so and seeing how that goes. Or if you do have those rich, deep friends, we need to be intentional about maintaining them in some shape or form, still having conversation, still sharing who we are and where we're at in this particular season of life. Vulnerability across time is one way to consider friendship. Proverbs 27:17 says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. As we're invited to support each other, to make each other better, to cultivate that friendship along the path of life through wise living and through experiencing the life of God in that relationship. So that's our first weekly habit, cultivating friendship through real conversation. Perhaps an hour a week or something like that if you're starting it. You can't create a friendship in that 1 hour, but that can be the context where that friendship grows and builds in the weeks and months and years ahead. And at All Souls, as a church, we want to be the home of friendship, displaying that safety, that forgiveness of God, embodying the gospel, where we share each other's flaws and weaknesses, but accept and love each other nonetheless as God accepts us in Christ.